Hello, hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product based businesses to retail shelves. Today, we're chatting with Kim Brown, the founder of CocoXo Body Care Love, a clean and holistic body brand that's all about luxurious whipped body butters made with natural ingredients that really nourish the skin and elevate self care, which is something we all need more of. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for
Excellent.
coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in and hear more about your journey in building your brand. So let's just start from the beginning.
All right, excellent. Let's go.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what was life like before thinking about starting your brand?
Absolutely. Before starting my brand, I'm from the DMV areas. Typical job is a federal employee. So I worked for the federal government, and it really started like right before COVID kind of really took place. And at the end of the day, I would just close my laptop and had nothing to do. And so, with that being said, I started tinkering around in the kitchen and just kind of remembering back to my childhood where I would go to Georgia. That's where my family's originally from, and my great aunt.
Same.
Okay, so yeah, my family's from Augusta and Waynesboro, Georgia. And so I would go down south during the summers, and my great aunts would teach my cousins and I how to make soaps and body butters. So I started just relearning that process and asked my friends to test my products. And they really liked it. So I started becoming busy with this, right?
Yeah.
And in no way did I think that I would be able to sell my product. So before Coco XO hit retail shelves, 9 to 5 girl, career girl, family oriented, and just wanted to share the product and show love to my friends and family.
Yeah. So what was the kind of pivotal moment or the aha moment for you that said, you know what, I really want to try to sell this product versus giving it to my friends?
Yeah, so it was the encouragement, people really saying, "Kim, this is good. This product is really good." So interesting enough, I had a friend. She was in town with her son from Philadelphia, and we have an area in Prince George's County where I'm from called the National Harbor. And typically, you'll take out of towners there, so you're on the water. You go to restaurants and the like. And we stopped at this location called Arts Destination. And when you walk in, it's like a gift shop slash museum, local artists and the like. And I said, I probably could sell my stuff in here. I had no idea that it was going to work. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, I went up to the counter and because I saw local artists and I said, I'm a local artist. So I went to the counter and I asked the young lady, I said, how would one, sell their products or, have a residency in this shop? And she said, oh, well, here's the name and number of the program manager. Give them a call, send an email. I did that. I put together a little portfolio with some pictures and sent it. Got a call back to come in with my
Wow.
products. And right, so that was serious, right? So now I get an email to come and meet the director of Prince George's County Arts and Humanities Council, who was managing the space, Rhonda Dallas. So I come in with my jars of body butters and handmade soaps. I had made packaging on my laser print HP computer, and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you a shot." I said,
Wow.
"Okay." I didn't care where I was in Arts Nation. I was in that space. I was at the National Harbor, which is a global location. People from around the world come to the MGM and they're in that space. I didn't care if she put me in the middle of the floor, I was there. And that's exactly what she did. And I did well. I actually was selling products. So that kind of just was my pivotal moment to say, okay, I am audacious enough and just, fearless enough to ask the questions
Yeah.
and actually present myself and say, okay, I'm ready. And
Yeah.
it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. What I think is great about that is the fact that you walked in and just said, you know what, I'm just going to ask.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to get on the shelf, but I could start
Yeah.
here and ask the associate. And it led to you being actually there and in the store.
Yeah, and I also think that, just taking my career and being in management and just understanding business, right? Ask the right questions, get in the circles that you want to be in, network. If they say no, maybe they can lead you somewhere else,
Right.
and just taking a chance. So that's kind of how that happened.
What did you put in that email pitch that you think really sparked interest for somebody to call
So
you back?
right. So the space is for local artists. So I my first sentence, I said, "Hi, my name is Kimberly Brown. I'm a native of Prince George's County, Maryland. So I'm a taxpayer for this space as well, right?" So I'm a native of Prince George's County, Maryland. I have a body butter and soap brand that I would like to present to you. Here are some photos of my portfolio. Would love to hear back from you. And that's what happened. I think it was meant to be.
Yeah. How many products did you put in that store?
I had 6 SKUs, so that was 6 different scents of body butter, and then I had maybe the 3 to 4 different scents of the soaps. So at the time, I was actually hand making the soaps, and when you make soaps from scratch, it's like building a cake. You are boiling the ingredients, you are placing them in the mold, you have to allow them to cure for 6 weeks. So a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
this was, yeah, it's a labor of love preparing for that space. I wasn't ready. I didn't know I was going to sell the way I was. So after I would leave the shop on the weekends, I was back to making soaps until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning just to be able to prepare and keep up with the inventory.
Were you doing anything from a marketing standpoint to drive awareness in that store, or was it just, like, one of the only type of items in that store?
Right. So, Instagram, of course, you have your socials. I had a pretty robust friend group. I also joined Facebook groups as well. And then again, you're in this tourist location.
Yeah.
So, around that time, it was maybe around March time frame, almost 4.5 years ago. So, that was gearing up for the spring, summer, the nice weather months. So, you had people coming into the store and they would tell their friends about the shop because not only was myself in there selling body care, but you had actual artists creating beautiful pieces of artwork, home goods, and the like, all craft type artists. So they will want to come and see what's going on in the
Yeah.
shop and be able to support locally.
So had you even had a website at that time?
Yes, I had a website. Yes. So I was just gearing up. I didn't know that Arsenation locally was going to be the area that would launch CocoXo the way that it has. I was simply preparing. I have my website, go on Instagram, go on the socials, introduce myself, probably purchase meta ads to, spawn
Yeah.
the brand so my reach would be a little further. I knew that I wanted to go to trade shows, and again, I was so audacious in my mindset that I said, "Maybe I can be on Oprah's greatest things or her favorite things," right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I went on a Google search to find out how do you even get on this list? And so with that, I started digging a little deeper, and her buyers were at trade shows.
Mhm.
So I started attending the trade shows. I never got on the list, well, not yet,
Yeah, not
but
yet.
that's how I started to also market Coco XO was through the trade shows and then being able to find incubator programs for emerging brands.
Yeah. What trade shows were important, do you feel like from starting to get out and meet?
Yeah, so I would say there's a trade show that's hosted in New York called New York Now. It used to be called I think it was the New York Gift Show, but now it's New York Now. And the buyers there are typically independent retailers where you still have the mom and pop shops in New York, Vermont, Boston, the Northeast. And so those shop owners would be in the Javits Center in New York,
Mhm.
and they will be looking for either existing brands, emerging brands. But not only did you have independent retailers there, Target was there, Macy's was there, Nordstrom, CVS. So you had just a myriad of people looking for brands to be able to purchase and buy. And so New York Now definitely was one of the pivotal trade shows I started to attend. And that's where I got my launch into retail beyond arsenation. I was in the independent retailers. And then also from there, I was able to network with other brands. And they encouraged me to go to another show. It's called Cosmoprof. Cosmoprof is located in Las Vegas, and I typically go to their summer show. So that's another great trade show to go to.
Great one. So those independent retailers, that you
Mhm.
met in at New York Now and had opportunity to get into, how did you build up? Because you were saying you were making your body butters and your soaps on the weekends. How did you gear up inventory to then support more retailers?
It's kind of a blur now, but any spare time I had, it was dedicated to the brand. That's all I did. At the end of my work day, at the end of my time at the shop, at Arsenation, when I would go home, I would just create. And so that was my life for almost 3.5 years, just building the brand. And I haven't been asked that question before, and I'm just thinking back. I'm like, God, Cam, you really didn't go anywhere. I mean, but I was
Was
really
all
yeah, it was all work. It was
building.
all building the inventory and make sure that I can meet the purchase orders that were coming in, because that was important to me to build that reputation that I was reliable until I was able to find a manufacturer that could actually create for me.
Yeah. Where were
Yeah.
those additional retailers at, that you were able to get into from the show?
So, yeah, yeah. So, starting off, it was primarily in New York. I'll give a shout out to a retailer, independent retailer called Shop Nilu. It's a Black owned shop in Harlem. And that was my first retailer. It's a gift shop. Normally, it's Harlem local artists in there and creators, but Katrina Paris, she gave me a shot. I got another shot. She was my first order and, consecutively. And so that worked out well. There was a drugstore in Long Island that I had my products in there as well. So it was pretty much throughout New York City and then also in Vermont. Yeah. So that was my first.
What were some early learnings that you got, once your product was actually on shelf? Was there any different feedback that you were getting from consumers or even packaging conversations, that caused change?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the initial stages, like the New York NAMA shows and the independent retailer, at the time when I was making the soaps, what I learned about soap making is that over time, the soap they shrink. It's like the water is starting to decompress. So, with that being said, your labels are going to start to shift, and they may fall off the product. They don't look as nice on the shelf, so I had to figure that out, what type of label could I use for that? Also at the time, my labels, they didn't spark interest in that way. I think people saw something in me, but they knew I could do better. And so the woman that owned Shop Nilu in Harlem, she said, Kim, why don't you put something about your family on your label? Say put a family tree on there to let them know that this is a family recipe. So somebody knows something about the founder. Even on the labeling, if you put something that shows what the scent is,
Yep.
because when they see the name, they're like, okay, yeah, but what does it smell like? They
Mhm.
are visual people. Even when you're online, you can see the packaging. Okay, if you have fruit on it, okay, you may have a fruity scent. If it's pink and can give you some type of feminine vibe. But those are some of the feedback that I received, which was very helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Yes.
Yeah, and it's great because you were in these local stores, so it was easy for you to adjust versus if it was, mass
Yes,
retail across the country.
absolutely.
So when did you said you were making them at home, and at some point you turned and connected with a manufacturer. What
Yes.
what was kind of the catalyst for you to say, "Okay, I need to stop doing this at home and really start to, um, you know, be able to get support from another place?"
Right. Yeah. So I started hearing this word scale. You need to scale. How are you going to scale? What does that mean? And so, what that meant, at the time, how can you meet the demands of retailers when you're getting beyond the independent retailer? I mean, you want to go national, you want to go international. You can't be in the kitchen because
Right.
there are regulations that you have to meet to be able to be on those shelves. So they're not going to take you. Great that you started in the kitchen, but you have to move beyond that.
Mhm.
And so I had to just do research. And also, I was part of these Facebook groups, just quietly listening, quietly watching people just give information. Also, researching people that did it before me, other founders that would have their own podcasts or they would have their own blogs that they will provide information and say, hey, try to find these soap houses or manufacturers that will take your recipe or their chemists take your recipe and make it a durable product that can go on shelves. And so it took me about 3 years to find a
Oh,
manufacturer
wow.
that could work with me and my pricing. So I was able to do it that way. And so now I have this relationship with my manufacturer that's ready to go. The way that I'm able to keep some of my costs low is that with my buyers now, I'm totally upfront with them about my inventory. You know, I may not have 3,000 units in stock, but I may have 800 or 1,000 units in stock. However, my lead time is
Mhm.
20 days,
Mhm.
and I can tell my manufacturer, hey, can you do this in 20 days? Yes, they can. I tell my buyer that we're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's also being able to have that relationship and be honest with the buyers
Mhm.
and not oversell yourself. Because once you do that and you can't meet a purchase order, they're not coming back to you. So
Exactly.
that's it's very important to be upfront, and I think they and I know that they appreciate that.
Yeah. Once you find that manufacturer and then to what you were saying, providing them with your recipes, how long did
Yeah.
it take before they actually nailed it and got exactly what you were looking for?
2 to 3 weeks. They have
Oh,
been in
that's
business
fast.
they've
Okay.
been in business since the '70s, so this
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
new
That's
to them,
great.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm coming to them, like, with my recipe, like, "You better not tell anyone," and they're like, "Okay, Miss Brown, we got you," right? But very nice, personable.
Right.
But, we signed our NDA and they were able to go from there. So it was just a great relationship and it's still ongoing.
No, that's great. I mean, we've had founders on the show that's been taken takes months to get, the formula equal to what they were
Yes.
envisioning. So that was great that you just had a couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
then you were free to not have to spend all your
Yes.
time making the soaps and the body butters. So where did that time shift to in building your brand?
It shifted to really like the business model. What did I want people to see when CocoXo was presented? Even when it came down to marketing, the look, the feel, and really a lot of it is the marketing piece, finding that person that can run the ads for you, that understands your brand, even when it comes down to content, finding those people you can reach out to when needed. The way I set my business up, I don't have any full-time staff. I freelance, so you're on an as needed basis. When I need marketing support, when I need operational support, I tag those people that have worked with me in the past and use them for those services. So it primarily went to employees, the freelancing piece, also developing relationships. There's the mall Simon's Properties. So I've met the management there, actually at Arsenation at the National Harbor.
Yeah.
They came in doing groundwork looking for vendors for their malls. And so I was able to speak to them and come into Pentagon City,
Mm,
that's in Arlington, Virginia, during the holiday season to be able to sell my products there at a very low cost, to rent a space. So it was that networking piece that I didn't have time to do. And I also tell founders it's so important. You may not want to be visible, but people now they want to know who they're buying
yep,
from.
they
They
do.
want they want to know who you
They
are.
want to feel connected.
They
Yeah.
want to feel connected.
Yeah.
Yes, they really do. And then it's also, even it's going out to other pop-ups. Be a part of those vendor engagement opportunities. You
Yeah.
still need to be visible.
You
So
do a lot
that's
of that too, it looks
I
like,
do.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I also say it depends what pop up because you'll find now, and it's just being honest, that it's become such a business, right? For people to have pop ups and have vendors there, but you want to make sure it's the right event.
Mhm.
If it has traction, they're not solely relying on the vendors to market for them. You should be able to bring people in as well.
Yeah.
The space where they're gonna have it. If it's at a concert, well, where are you gonna be positioned at the concert? Is it in front of the venue? Is it in the back of the venue? So before you spend $700 or $800 on a space, you need to know exactly what you're getting yourself into. So I always just caveat with that piece, but definitely I attend those worthwhile events. If there's at a convention center, typically there may be a pretty good event, or those hosts that are going to have a lot of a good reach of their followings.
Yeah. So don't just sign up, really take your time and due diligence to understand if it's right for your business.
Absolutely. And also, I say this about trade shows. Before you even sign up for a trade show, my recommendation is to walk the floor before you
Yeah.
spend thousands of dollars. Go to that trade show, talk to those vendors that are exhibiting there to get their feedback on how well it's doing. I also say that when you're a new brand, and I still consider myself an emerging brand, you want to find incubators. If it's a trade show at Cosmoprof Las Vegas, I mean, you're going to have everyone there from Shea Moisture to Dove, right? And so you're this brand that's been in business 2 years. Who's looking for you, right?
Right.
So you wanna be in spaces where they may have women-owned brands, Black-owned brands, you know? So those people that are looking to do business with women-owned, Black-owned brands, they're coming intentionally into those spaces.
Yeah.
So you're not lost in a sea of vendors and other brands that are nationally known.
How do you find those incubators?
So when you go on those websites like to Cosmoprof or New York Now, typically they'll have a drop down for emerging brands.
Okay.
So it's right on their website. And so you can go from there and submit. And typically, I've never had a problem entering into those programs. New York Now, I was part of the emerging brand, and then they had a separate sector for Black owned brands. With Cosmoprof, they also had a Black owned brand sections. Those that are looking to do business with Black owned brands, they came through those aisles.
Great. Okay. That's really good insight.
Yeah.
So then I know you are an Amp Beauty LA, which
Yeah,
is so
yes.
crazy because I saw them on Side Hustlers. When I saw that,
Yes,
I was
those are
like,
my
ah.
girls.
So how did you connect with them and how did you get in their retail store?
So with AMP, let's think back. And it's interesting because during this time, I was researching. I was doing my research to find out, founders and other vendor supporting entities, and AMP was one of them. And I remember this was maybe almost 3.5 years ago. AMP did a activation with the NAACP in Los Angeles. And I don't know, somehow I was connected with the NAACP and on their website, and I saw AMP. And I was like, I want CocoXo listed with those guys, you know?
Yeah.
So I sent them an email, sent them my portfolio, and it went from there. And so once I sent my portfolio, one of the founders reached back for a meet and greet, scheduled the meet and greet, pitched CocoXO to them, and then from there I was accepted into Amp Beauty LA. And they are a great entity for emerging brands. They provide support to those emerging brands when it comes down to counsel. On inventory, they have their contracts established with some national retailers to get your footprint out there. So they're definitely a great trusted business partner that I have.
Yeah. Is that how you were connected to getting into Macy's in New York?
Yes. Yes, through AMP. And so with that, AMP, they started off on the Target online space and then also the Macy's online space as well. And so with that following, depending on how the brands do, the buyers will come back to you and say, hey, do you want to take this opportunity to be on shelf? And so they'll reach out to the brands that's ready to be on shelves in those stores. Of course, there is definitely a fee, and it's not phenomenal. I mean, to be on store shelves and to stay there, it's very expensive. So it's nice to say, okay, I'm in these stores. But if you want to be able to stay on those shelves, it takes work.
Yeah.
And so I'll say that. I mean, you have a number of brands that can get there, but can you actually stay there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of
Yeah,
people say it's easier to get on shelf than to stay on shelf.
absolutely, because that's kind of really where the real work begins.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting on Macy's during the holiday season, first of all, how excited were you to actually
I was
be able
really
to?
excited. Yes, I was extremely excited. Didn't really know what to expect getting into that space. I went to visit actually my mom and I went right after Thanksgiving. And when I tell you it's massive, the Macy's in Herald Square, 8 floors, tons of tourists. I mean, people swarming everywhere. And I just saw dollar signs. I was like, yes, we got to sell. We got to sell. We got to sell. This is good. Introduce the product. This is great. So I was excited for that, not only just to be there in an iconic space, a space that's been around for centuries, and to be in that space. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. It was just like a dream come true. It really was.
Yeah. So how was performance there?
Very well. It went very, very well. So Macy's is a trusted retailer. So typically, if you're in that store, I mean, the ladies that were selling the product, you didn't have to do a lot. I mean, you have to, get the engagement,
Mhm.
but you're in that space. So one that brings credibility to your brand, but also just talking about what the product can do for you, the benefits of that. So we did great. And so we are coming back during the Mother's Day holiday, the spring time frame. So we'll be back.
Well, that's excellent.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And how do you gear up for inventory in a space like that?
Sometimes you really don't know, but for me, I'll speak for myself. So, on average, I keep about maybe 1,500 units of each because I do have other retailers that I do business with. For example, TJ Maxx. That's
Okay.
another one of my retailers. And so I met the buyers at TJ Maxx at Cosmoprof. And, when people think of TJ Maxx, it's like, oh, it's definitely an off-brand retailer when it comes down to designer and like it's a lot of overstock. But also you have brands Fenty is there, Gucci is there. You have Mac products. You have certain TJ Maxx stores, their cosmetics area is just immaculate.
Yeah.
And a lot of men and women, they go to those sections to find their products now, and you never know what you may discover. That's what they always say about TJ Maxx.
Mhm.
But they are a great brand partner that I work with. One, TJ Maxx, they love small businesses. There's no chargebacks. And I always talk about chargebacks because when people return their items, that cost is coming back to you. And
Mhm.
so TJ Maxx, they don't have a chargeback fee for their retailers, and they also pick up your products for free.
Oh,
It's yeah, yeah, if your
that's a really
margins
good, yeah.
right, absolutely. If your margins can do it, it's definitely a worthwhile retailer to work with.
No, that's really great to know and really different, I think, than a lot of retailers out there because to your point, when you think about cost of goods, it's completely different when you're selling online and all you're paying for is shipping versus being in a
Yes,
retail store where you're having chargebacks, promotions,
yes,
returns,
yes,
expiring, all of those things. So it's nice to hear that there's a bigger retailer that you can kind of, garner
yeah,
more consumers, but have a little bit more opportunity and flexibility from a cost perspective.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So how many TJ Maxx stores are you in?
So total, it's about maybe 20 stores across the nation. And the interesting thing about TJ Maxx, they'll send you your PO, which, this was one of my first POs that I had to really decipher. And I was handling the logistics with myself, my mother, and a small team. And being able to understand that purchase order sheet, which is really important because your units are going to maybe multiple distribution centers. Also, the labeling that goes on those boxes is very important because it says what distribution center you're going to, the number of units, where the product is coming from. So it's also really important to read those details closely because that also depends on when you will receive your payment. There are any issues with your shipment that could delay a number of things, getting your items on shelf and also your payment back from that particular retailer. So those things are important as well. So it's about 20 TJ Maxx stores. The interesting thing about TJ Maxx, you don't know where it's going. You know the distribution center,
Mhm.
but I'll go on TikTok and I'll put in CocoXo, and the content creators are amazing. You'll see your product, be like, "Oh, what's this?" It says CocoXo, and I'm like, please love it, right?" And so they're like, "Okay, it's good." Those kind of things. You're like, "Oh, I'm in Texas. Okay,
They don't
good."
provide you like a store list or anything.
No, nope. Nope, nope, because TJ Maxx, they have a quick turnover of their products, so they're shipping products throughout the nation, and, I mean, the distribution center,
Yeah.
but that distribution center could send out to 6 or 7 stores within that particular area, so,
Does that
yeah.
does that make it difficult in regards to marketing and driving traffic to those stores then?
Yeah, it does, specifically for those type of stores. Yes, it does. But that's where you as a founder, you have to market your brand. So potentially that content creator, oh, I've heard of Coco XO. She's in TJ Maxx. Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard of this brand. Yeah, let me grab it and go from there.
Yeah, it's that combined. I'm guessing TJ Maxx has a lot of traffic as well, so you're relying on
Yes,
that
they do. They
to be
do.
the driver.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, with you being at kind of some specialty local retailers coupled with national chains like TJ Maxx, how
Yeah.
how have you determined your pricing? Have you had to change anything in regards to what that retail is to a consumer based on the demographics of the different groups of stores?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you for that. So, but before I started my pricing, and before when we started the conversation, I talked about the Facebook groups and just researching founders that have started before me and going to their blogs and the information that they've put out. And so what I've learned before I even hit retail shelves, they talked about pricing and it's so important. They say price for where you want to be, not where you are today. So if you want to be on the shelf, if you want to be in Saks, you need to price it at Saks because that's where you may go. I had no idea that I was going to be at Macy's. Hey, it worked. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I priced the product so that one, I could be on the shelf there, and then there was also margin. So you want to be able to price it so that one, that you have the marketing pieces there, that you can afford that, the labels, the cost of goods. So you want to make sure that you have room for that and to also make a profit.
Mhm.
So I have not had to change my pricing since I've started. And that was due to the research that was done before I got on store shelves. And I tell people, don't count out those Facebook groups because there are women from Nebraska and Idaho that have been doing this a long time. They're willing to share, their stories and feedback. I remember there was a woman in one of the groups I was part of. I don't know if you remember this catalog, and this is probably going to age me. It was Spiegel.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So long time ago. Okay.
Yep.
So she had products in Spiegel and she, just shared information about inventory management and then also being able to price her products out. Although those catalogs aren't around anymore, but the elements and the framework is still
Yeah.
relevant.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like the Facebook groups are really where you can dive in and get a lot of information.
It's old school, but they're there and they can tell you
Yeah.
really seriously, yes.
Yeah. So did you have just going into this, did you have kind of a retail strategy or a plan in the type of retailers that you wanted to be in? It more just, as you were out there at those trade shows and meeting and experiencing retailers that you decided that, oh, that makes sense for my brand, or no, this doesn't make sense.
Right. I really didn't know. I mean, of course, you think about the Sephoras of the world, you think about the Ultas of the world, but I was really open to those that wanted to work with me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you'll come across buyers, and I mean, I've been told this directly, and I appreciate the feedback. Kim, your brand won't do well here at Bloomingdale's. Typically, these type of brands don't do well. Okay, but maybe I'll do well at Target. I'll
Yeah.
do well here at Macy's, and so again, I'm willing to work with those retailers that want to work with women-owned brands. My price point, the inventory that I can meet in those requirements. So I was open. I didn't know.
Yeah.
When I went to New York Now, which was the first trade show that I was a part of, I had no idea that New York had so many independent pharmacies that had beauty areas in their pharmacies. These local pharmacies that have been around for decades, family owned. They're selling Clinique in there. Then they have your independent brands in there. They're right there in these stores and also hotel chains. You
Yeah.
think about also, I was a part of the museum gift shops. Those are available too. So it's not just the large retailers,
Yeah.
but you
That's a
just
good thing.
when you start going to these trade shows, you start meeting buyers from all sectors of retail,
Yeah.
which was great.
Yeah, that's important too. I feel like because when people say I want to get into retail stores, you think the traditional of what a
Yeah.
retail is, but your consumer is in so many other places that you can touch them in a more unique way. Because I even saw you're at a campus, right? You're on like UCLA.
Yes, UCLA campus, you have your bookstores.
Yeah.
They're there as well. So those places that you don't even think about. I was a part of a cohort with a woman who had several different honey products. And she was able to get into it was the Hilton chains into
Okay.
their store. Yeah, so it worked out for her.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to meet the demands, say, of a Target shelf, but she was able to meet the demands of Hilton,
Yeah.
which worked out beautifully for her.
Yeah. And it's opportunity to learn, more about your
Yes.
customer, your pricing,
Yes.
what new lineup, or new
Yeah.
SKUs make sense based on your customer to grab to.
Absolutely. And I always say, with now my focus, I still have the soaps, but my primary focus in retail is the body butters. And I learned to make sure I did well with that before branching out into something else. People are asking me, "Kim, when are you gonna do an oil? When are you gonna do a body wash?" Would love to. I would absolutely love to. And I have the design and my manufacturer can do it, but I have to make sure that the body butters and CocoXo are stable enough that I can branch out to
Yeah.
another SKU.
Yeah.
And it's so important just to make sure whatever you're doing, even if it's that one product, that you do it very well and people
Mhm.
know it and they love it.
Yeah.
Instead of, because you can get into this room where people, what's the new scent? What are you going to do? Don't worry about that. Look at your data, look at what's selling well, and that will guide you as far as what, where you will scale and what you need to do with your brand.
Yeah. Is that why you chose the body butters to continue with versus the soaps? Was it
Yeah.
truly connected to
Yeah.
performance?
Yes. And yes, it was performance. It was based on scalability as well. And it was based on margins. With body butters, the margins can be real. If you have a good product, the margins can be great. So I had to look at that, just the bottom line.
Yeah. That's great
Yeah.
too. I think that's a good point because founders create products that, of course, are your babies. And even
Hmm.
if you don't see strong performance in it, a lot of times you still hold on to it for longer than you really need
Right.
to. But you're saying, no, you need to look at the data, you need to look at the sales. And if it doesn't fit where you are today and how you want to scale future, you kind of need to let that
Yes.
go and focus on the thing that really is the driver.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You'll thank yourself in the long run.
Yeah.
You'll It save you time, it'll save you costs and the like.
Yeah. Have you expanded since the launch of the 6 SKUs?
No, I have the same 6 scents. I do have an unscented that I have introduced into the product line. You find that your customer base, a number of women want unscented, from facial care to body care. They want an unscented brand. So I did introduce an unscented product into the line.
So, what have been the best ways in which you've been able to drive awareness of CocoXO and get consumers excited to come in and try?
Yeah, first I would always say locally, Prince George's County was the catapult for it. That was Arsenation, that was the tourists coming in, that was the local consumer coming in and learning more about the product. And they telling their friends and family, "Oh, when you come into town, you gotta go here." And it happens. And it's so humbling. And I'm just so grateful for that. When you're in the shop and people come in and they're like, "Hey, I was here 2 summers ago. Oh, my girlfriend told me to come in here. I need to see this girl named Kim. She has the body butters. Get pretty Nikki. It smells good." I was like, oh my God. So I always say that physical presence there. I mean, and we're still there in that space. And I'm still there on Saturdays and Sundays to meet my customers,
Mm.
introduce the brand, and to continue to keep going with that. But definitely, that was the first marketing piece. As I started networking with other founders, I was introduced to people that was able to help me with my meta ads. So that's, branching across the social media markets like the Instagram, the Facebooks. So being able to do that, that's definitely helped. Also being at the trade shows. But I've also learned about that. Your first trade show, don't get discouraged because buyers want to see you a few times, especially at the larger ones when you have the larger retailers because they don't want a brand that's going to be here one year and say you're gone the next. My third year at Cosmoprof Las Vegas, I actually had the retailers coming over to my section that wouldn't even look my way the first time, and I'm okay with that. And I get it. I get it. I understand. You don't know me. I understand. And sometimes sometimes it's just a matter of showing resiliency and being there and knowing that you belong in those spaces and that you want to be here and you want longevity.
Yeah, I love that. Like, just because you go one time, don't think you're going to get in. The retailer's on your hit list. It may take a couple of times of showing up
Yes.
and
Yes.
proving that you're, the stability of your company and your brand.
Exactly, exactly. I have some friends that are going to the Cosmoprof show in Miami. I think it's sometime this month, maybe next week or the next couple of weeks. And I told them, yeah, just be present. Some people think that they need this elaborate pitch when they're speaking to retailers. And I thought the same. So I'm in my mind, I have my pitch ready. And typically, they wanna have a conversation about the brand, who you are, if you could do that in maybe 30 to 40 seconds, and they wanna talk pricing. What is the wholesale cost for your product per jar or the pricing that you are able to offer them? And they may not have that conversation or PO then, but that may generate the conversation, get their card, email them with your line sheet, and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's great
Yeah.
advice, great advice. So, what is next for CocoXO? What are you looking forward to as we kind of start 2026 and go through the balance of the year and of course in the future?
Well, yeah, this is actually my first podcast of the year, so I'm excited about that. So I'm starting off strong.
Awesome.
So that's great. Of course, we have Women's History Month coming up. So I will be participating in some events locally through our county executive. I have a really great relationship with our local government entities here. So we have some events coming up for that. In New York in May, it's an event called Hue Affair. There'll be over 90 brands there. It's sponsored by CVS. And so it's a great
What is
event to
that?
attend. You said where or when?
What is that specifically?
Hue Affair, it's
Yeah.
an incubator of brands, some national, some emerging. And so there's a space in New York City. I think it's in Brooklyn this year, but it's HUE Affair. Again, it's sponsored by CVS. It's Brown Girl Marketing that's sponsoring the event. So Coco XO will be presenting there as well and exhibiting products and people, the public can come and buy. Typically they have over 900 customers to come in to 1,000. And so they've been doing this since 2022. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that and continuing to grow the brand. Yeah, that's Coco XO, staying on retail shelves, getting out there in the public, continuing to network, and working with those retailers that want to work with us.
Yeah. So, where can our listeners continue to follow the journey to support and, of course, most importantly, buy CocoXO?
Of course. So, of course, you can go to my website, which is cocoxos.com. On social, it's cocoxos1. That's on TikTok, that's on Instagram. You can find me there.
Great. And I'll make sure I
Yeah.
put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for coming on and telling your story and your journey. And I'm excited to see what's next.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.